Greetings and welcome to the debut episode of Who Died with Pete and Alex. This is your weekly guide to the famous, infamous, and otherwise noteworthy figures who passed away the past week.
That's right. I, for one, have taken a little step back from social media of late, and one of the things that I missed out on was kind of the group notification that you get of when somebody who noteworthy passes away. You know, trending topics. You get to find out, who's passed on, and I don't like being taken by surprise for some reason by those. I hate, getting to the end of the year and being like, oh man, that person died? Mm-hmm. So we started this show to just talk about it amongst ourselves because it's the kind of thing we like to talk about.
Mm-hmm. Yes, this week's episode covers April 18th through 25th, 2023. And Pete, I understand you have our first... nominee? I don't know what the category. Our first honoree.
Honoree. There you go. Yes. Well, very much so an honoree. On April 21st of this past year, Ken Potts passed away. He was 102 years old, and he was one of the last survivors of the Pearl Harbor bombing.
Wow.
Now, World War II veteran aboard the USS Arizona, which was the ship that was the most damaged, I think, when it was attacked. It's twofold. First of all, threefold, let's say. First, his birthday was April 15th. He just, basically a week past 102. Just had a birthday. Mm-hmm. So, with you focus on the tragedy, you focus on the deaths, the destruction of that kind of a thing, but you don't usually, at least I don't usually, kind of realize, a lot of people survived that and also lived on and could be alive today.
Yeah.
Seeing that listing, I was like, oh, wow, all right. Survivor of Pearl Harbor and just died last week.
Yeah, the survivor part doesn't seem that crazy, but lasting to 102, the fact that he was still alive, that's genuinely shocking.
Yeah, and not only, you would think, so you survived this crazy bombing, okay, you can, thank you for your service, but he was kept serving until 1945. At the end of the war, they were like, okay, now you can go. So to do another 4 years basically after you survived the bombing of Pearl Harbor, it seems a bit much, but and then went about and led a normal life after that, kind of, got married in 1957, married a woman who he was still married to when he passed away, and worked as an auto salesman. He was just like a car, imagine you just go to buy a car and the guy was like, oh yeah, I survived the bombing of Pearl Harbor. That's
what an American story. He goes from Pearl Harbor to automobile salesman.
Exactly. So now it's, Highlander rules. There's only one remaining USS Arizona survivor.
Wow.
Lou Conter, age 101. So he's just behind this guy in terms of... and I think there might be other survivors around from the other parts of the bombing, but this is, as far as the Arizona goes, there's only one lone survivor. So let's keep an eye out for him. Hopefully he continues to live a long and happy life.
Yes, and of course we thank them for their service in our country. I mean, these guys really, they're the real deal. So
that gets thrown around quite a bit these days, but this I can get behind this.
Yeah.
So
farewell to Ken Potts.
Ken Potts,
age 102.
Who do you decide to honor here? Who died that made you say, "Hey, that person died. That's notable"?
Well, it kind of surprised me. Barry Humphries, a.k.a. Edna Everidge, a.k.a. Dame Edna.
Dame Edna.
Yes, Barry Humphries, Australian comedian, born 17th of February, 1934. And he went on to do a lot of movies and plays and things like that. But he's most famous for... So among the movies he was in Shock Treatment, which was the sequel to Rocky Horror Picture Show. And,
right.
I'm a big fan of unknown or rarely seen sequels to popular movies like 2010, Return to Oz. So I definitely want to track
more
down
American Graffiti.
More American Graffiti. More RoboCop. He was also in Spice World. and he was in one of his. He was in The Hobbit. Peter Jackson's The Hobbit. He played the Great Goblin. So I'm assuming he was like in a motion capture kind of.
He was trying to defeat Spider-Man.
That's the Green Goblin, I believe.
Yeah, okay.
So, but anyway, but his most famous role was undoubtedly Dame Edna, I guess, drag character. I guess it's him in drag.
Yeah.
So Dame Edna debuted in 1955 on an Australian revue called Return Fire. And when she first debuted, she was kind of a mousy, quiet character. But starting in the 70s, 1972, she was in the movie Barry Mackenzie Holds His Own, where she was awarded the title Dame by the mayor of Melbourne, I think. I don't think mayors were allowed to declare people dames, but...
It's Australia. They got their own rules.
Different. That's also the other thing. I always assumed that Dame Edna was British, but it turns out she's been Australian this whole time, right under our nose. Maybe the Dame part threw me off. But so in the 70s and 80s, she started getting more edgy and political. Oh, she was also in the Sergeant Pepper movie.
Of course.
Another one. So, yeah, starting in the 80s, she started doing a lot more edgy, political type humor, critiques and things like that. And
it'll be interesting to keep an eye out. I don't think Sergeant Pepper will be it. Maybe it will, though. But it'll be interesting to keep an eye out, when, you and I do another show called Star Wars Minute, and often we'll find themes that a lot of the actors from that particular movie were in something else. And we'll be like, oh, here's another one, and we've done videos about who were they in Superman, from the original trilogy. So it'll be interesting to see kind of like if we end up finding themes in this, like the Sgt. Pepper movie, if in the next year or so we end up getting a handful of people from, it has to be something where like the people who are in it would just be now in the aging into the category where it's not a surprise tragic death, it's just merely an unfortunate passing. So it's hopefully we don't get to hopefully. So it's a tricky situation with this show, or hopefully we don't get to talk about too many people that we love, but also I'm interested to see where it goes.
Well, speaking of things we love, I guess to me, one of Dame Edna's lasting legacies will be that she did a TV special which hosted the penultimate appearance of the famous barbershop quartet, the B-Sharps. So
there you go.
That's never been released, as far as I know, on home video. So hopefully they'll get around to doing that. But Barry Humphries, a.k.a. Dame Edna. Goodbye, funny man.
Yeah, there you go. And I think maybe just because outside of my radar, I would not have been surprised if you had told me that Dame Edna had passed a while ago.
Yeah, or just it didn't make headlines here. She wasn't quite. She did make a little bit of a impact here in the U.S., but I feel like she was bigger in Australia and England.
Well, sure, yeah.
So, who do you have next up on the docket?
Well, next up, April 19th, I wanted to mark the passing of Lin Hui. Lin Hui, only 21 years old. But 21 years old is not that young for a giant panda.
Aww.
Lin Hui was born on September 28th, which is also my daughter's birthday, but 2001, in the China Conservation Research Center for Giant Pandas. And then loaned out, sent as a kind of goodwill ambassador, if you will, was sent to the Chiang Mai Zoo in Thailand in 2003. And instantly became, huge star attraction. I don't know if you remember the awkward baby polar bear at the German zoo from 10 years ago or so. Every once in a while we have like a celebrity animal.
Celebrity bear.
It's like, yeah. I mean, in LA, it wasn't in a zoo or anything. In LA, we had the mountain lion not too long ago. We got every once in a while an animal captures our imagination.
Yes.
And so in Thailand, this panda was a huge sensation. She even won a bronze medal for her great personality, panda type, on the votes, doing a fan vote at the website giantpandazoo.com.
So it's a very competitive category, so that was a real accomplishment.
Yeah, I know. It's not everybody can dream. As far as pandas go, that's pretty much that's like a greater than EGOTing.
Other Golden Raspberry Awards for the pandas, like the worst personality
panda type. I hope not. All pandas are great.
Yeah.
In the ironic, just weeks away from retirement, Lin Hui was scheduled to return to China this year. But did not make it. She had a nosebleed the other day, and then just kind of they did some additional studies, and then she just kind of suddenly passed away. What could be behind it? I guess it's not that close, but her mate, her mate at the zoo, Chuang, died at the age of 19, a younger man, in 2019. So 4 years ago. So it's not like the thing where like one dies and then the other one dies right away out of loneliness.
Clearly didn't care.
He notable that he collapsed shortly after standing up following a meal of bamboo leaves. So. I can relate.
Yeah.
Chuang, like had a big meal, stood up, and it was just too much for him, and he tapped out. So, but Lin Hui, panda. The good news is they were able to breed in captivity. So there are pandas that were sired by that couple who have survived.
Wow,
I do not have their names written down, but Lin Hui, we hardly knew ye.
Do you think it's just going to be like in a movie where people can watch 100 humans get killed and not care, but if someone kicks a dog, everyone gets upset? Like, will people be the most upset about the panda of all the deaths this week? We don't know.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, it's pretty. We got a Pearl Harbor survivor. We got a beloved comedian. We've got a panda, a cute panda. What do you have? What's next?
Well, I do have another beloved figure. He was a singer. He was a political activist, and he was an actor. And his name was Harry Belafonte, who
late entry to the list.
Yes, 96 years old. Born and died in Manhattan. That kind of surprised me. He was of Jamaican descent, but I would assumed he would be born in the Caribbean. But no, he was born in Manhattan. He always thought of himself as an activist first, and then an artist after that. So he was involved in a lot of political causes. He was against apartheid, fought for civil rights, and even up until was very outspoken against the Bush administration. And that got him a lot of flack, but he's like, I don't care. This is why I'm here to do this.
Later in, as a kid, you don't really notice, especially he was in that zone where he was popular before we were kids.
Yes.
And then because just doing the, talk show circuit, essentially, he was a relic of sorts, a curiosity, when we were kids, but then as I got older and found out more about him and became much more impressed with his, and not only outspoken, not afraid to take the risks, and for my money, I can't think of any time he was on the wrong side of things. He was always standing up for the right causes. So
yes. Yes, he did a lot of political things, of course, but he's probably will go down for more is his musical career. He was he only started singing because he wanted to pay for his acting classes. So he's like, okay, I'll do some singing on the side. His debut on stage, he was backed by Charlie Parker's band, which had Charlie Parker, Max Roach, and Miles Davis in the band. So it's a pretty good. Pretty good first band to have. And then his musical career took off. His first album, Calypso, released in 1956, the first million-selling LP by a single artist. And it totally, in a way, it's kind of almost like the first world music, because it really introduced, or to Americans at least, it introduced them to the exotic world of Caribbean music. And
right. The exotic world of one of the closest cultures geographagly to them.
Yeah. In 50s America, that was considered very considered very exotic. He had a lot of hit songs. The one probably everyone knows is Day-O, the Banana Boat song. Day-O! Everyone knows that part. Still a staple at sporting stadia around the world. Jump in the Line. Jamaica Farewell. Man Smart, Women Smarter.
Beetlejuice caused a little resurgence for him, I feel like.
And also The Mask. Also, they use that. That Somebody Stop Me, I think, is a Harry Belafonte.
Oh, really? All right.
Anyway, won not quite an EGOT, but he did win 3 Grammys, an Emmy, and a Tony Award. So he's like an EGOT. No O, unfortunately.
No Oscar.
No Oscar. Maybe posthumously someone can digitize him into a... That will be an interesting landmark when the first digital actor wins, the first posthumous digital actor wins the Academy Award.
Oh, boy. Let's not open that can of worms right now.
Yeah, so I encourage everyone to, if you aren't familiar with the music of Harry Belafonte, check him out. Very fun. I mean, he does a range of musics, but his calypso stuff that first put him on the map, very fun, and you can't help but be in a good mood while you listen to it. So, spin a disc for old Harry Belafonte. And I believe you have our last person of the day, which is a historical event, historical death.
Yeah. In addition to current events, we also kind of wanted to mark the anniversary of historic passings, perhaps. And this is the kind of thing that we might also open it up to bring some friends in to talk about people that they want to honor or something like that, But always looking at the week that was and see what, historically who passed away years ago. In this case, in 1951... April 23rd, 1951, we marked the passing of Charles G. Dawes. Charles G. Dawes. I'm sorry you had to find out this way, Alex. But Charles G. Dawes is one of the 3 former vice presidents who share my birthday.
Wow.
He was born August 27th, 1865, and vice president under Coolidge, Calvin Coolidge.
Silent Cal.
He doesn't now. He did not win an EGOT, but he is he's got a threefold notoriety here because he is one of only 2 people to have a number 1 pop hit, and to have written a number 1 pop hit and to win a Nobel Prize. So it's not quite an EGOT, but it's a different thing. The other is Bob Dylan, who got his Nobel Prize for writing. So it's kind of the same, But yes, Dawes is also the only vice president to be credited with a number 1 pop hit. And Dawes is one of only 2 people to have a number 1 pop hit who are also members of the United States Senate or House of Representatives. Can you think of who the other one was?
Well, Paul Simon, of course, probably the most famous example.
You're so close, in a sense.
Sonny Bono?
Yes, Sonny Bono. But yeah, in a completely kind of unrelated, it's also a technicality of sorts. Charles Dawes, the Nobel Prize was for his work on the Dawes Plan for World War I reparations. So nice they named it after him.
Yeah.
But in he wrote wrote a song. He always interested in music. Wrote a song called "Melody in A Major." Didn't even feel like giving it a full name.
Just a major.
Just wrote an instrumental song called "Melody in A Major," and in 1912 it became a fairly well-known song for piano and violin.
Oh, so this is even before he was famous.
No, this is yes.
He was vice president in 1922.
Right.
So
yes.
So he went into office with a hit single under his belt.
Well, no, he went into office having written a song that was kind of fairly popular, making the rounds. But and then in 1921 there was a popular arrangement of the work, so sheet music, different metrics.
Yeah.
But then somebody then later took that, made a let's see, in 1951. So this is the same.
He died that
year
right?
that he passed away. And I don't know if it was before he passed away or maybe as a tribute to him.
Yeah, where the song killed him.
Somebody took that melody and added lyrics. It was Carl Sigman added lyrics to Melody in A Major, and then transformed the song into "It's All in the Game." And then Tommy Edwards recorded it, and it was a #1 hit on the American Billboard record chart for 6 weeks in 1958. So posthumous, after he died, #1 hit.
And also into the rock era. Like 51, that would have been a totally different musical style than 1958.
I think it was still a little bit of a crooner. So, not everything was... because then, also, I mean, it went on to be a pop standard, and it's been recorded by Cliff Richard, The Four Tops, Isaac Hayes, Van Morrison, Nat King Cole.
Wow.
Elton John, Donnie and Marie, Barry Manilow, Merle Haggard.
Wow.
All these people, and who knows if any of them even realize that they're recording a song written by a former vice president.
You don't think they were staunch supporters, and this was their political, Wow, I wonder if any other vice presidents are going to have songs. Like right now, are there vice presidential songs out there that we are unaware of that will one day become hits? Let us know. Let us know in the comments below if you know of any songs that say.
Right. Did Dan Quayle write any songs? Did he have an album?
The Potato Song.
Yeah. We have to get Tony Thaxton on the case, see if any other politicians have recorded albums that we could then chart to see if they have legs as a candidate. Maybe then we can be on the lookout.
That would be a good candidate for bizarre albums. And well, I guess that will wrap up our first episode. We want to give a parting farewell to all the honorees this week. And if you've enjoyed us, we also host a podcast called Star Wars Minute, where we analyze, scrutinize, and celebrate the Star Wars movies. You can find that at StarWarsMinute.com or wherever you get podcasts. Anything else, Pete, before we
keep an eye out. We're testing out the format on this right now. I think this is mainly on YouTube, but if you're listening to this as a podcast, that means it made it into the podcast feed, and as we move on, we'll continue to plug things like we will get our social media handles and all that established and tell you how to listen and what to do. But thanks. Let us know in the comments below, since this is mainly on YouTube, if you enjoyed this, if we missed somebody from the last week that you wanted to talk about, etc., etc. But thanks for listening or watching.
Yeah, and hopefully you'll join us on the next episode and learn who died.